Yes, yes, you are now rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now you're checking out Hip Hop Wired. You know what it is. During that whole Roc-A-Fella split, you know, like there was talk of people taking sides or whatever. And I think it wasn't really about that with everybody. For some people, it was just more about who you had a relationship with. You know, me and Dame had already kind of fallen out by that point anyway. So, you know, it's just one of those situations where his mouth got in the way of his brain. And I kind of snapped at him, and we had our, you know, our thing, and that was that. So for me, it wasn't even a thing of which side do I take. It was just, all right, well, I'm not really rocking with homie like that right now anyway. Not to say that we're not cool, we're cool now. But, you know, at that time, it was just, all right, well, it wasn't even about an allegiance. I just already had a better relationship with Jay, so why would I even consider doing anything else? With other artists, it was a little bit different. Some artists had, like Cam obviously had a relationship with Dame, not with Jay. You know what I mean? So of course, it wasn't even a thing where Cam had to think about it. You know what I mean? It was just, you know, you went where your relationships were. I want to say how I got into the fold, very long story short, was I had a meeting with a big A&R at the time, Dino, the guy who discovered Cash Money, or signed Cash Money. Played him a bunch of music. He tracked me down, asked me to come in his office, played him a bunch of music. He gave me this whole thing about how he was gonna make me big, he had this lined up, that lined up, the new Cannabis album, the new Rakim album, you know, X, Y, and Z, and he's got these new dudes, you know, Cash Money had just started to pop off. So I'm like, all right, cool, never heard from him again. But what happened was G. Roberson had a meeting with Dino a few weeks later for an artist that he was shopping at the time called Billy Bathgate. Bathgate didn't have a demo, he would just bring them to the A&Rs and have him rap. So Dino actually put my CD in and had Bathgate rap to that. G loved what he heard, called the studio, or tracked me down to find out where I was. I used to work at the studio, called me at the studio, and was basically like, was trying to start a production thing here at Roc-A-Fella. We would love to talk to you about it. We also had this new kid, Kanye West. We want to bring in Rock Wilder, Buck Wilder, and a couple of other dudes. So I'm like, all right, well, I already have a manager, but let's talk. As time went on, you know, they brought me in. The production team thing never really surfaced or materialized. They introduced me to Emil. Me and Emil got along really well. I was working at the Cutting Room Studios at the time, so I guess my end really was probably engineering her whole album. I recorded that entire album, you know, engineer-wise, and then I also co-produced and touched up a lot of the other producers' beats on that album. Jay wasn't really messing with me for like the first year or whatever. And then when I did this record with her, with Emil and Bathgate called That's Right. And Jay heard it and was like, yo, I'm jumping on that. And who did the beat? They're like, oh, Just. They're like, oh, all right, cool. So like, once I did a record that he liked, then he was a little bit more receptive. And then after that, he was just like, all right, tell him to come to the studio. And actually what it was, I sent him a cassette that had the beat for Streets Is Talking. And he demoed that off of the cassette. And that's when he was like, all right, yeah, tell him to come down the bass line. And the rest was history.